Hi, everybody. Welcome to this podcast of the Presentation Hell podcast. Podcasting 3 times in a row. I said podcasting. Podcasting from Embark Studios here in Tampa, Florida. Today, we have Owen LaFave, president of Pinellas County Markets, business markets for Bank of Tampa.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank
Good
you,
to
James.
have you here.
Thank you. Let me welcome you here, too, because I know you're not fresh off the plane, but I know you're not a Tampa native. So
No, I moved here from New York. Yes.
Thanks for choosing Tampa.
I love Tampa. Tampa provides a foundation for entrepreneurial development and startup growth that is so conducive to you making a business, building a ability to take care of those you love and things like that. And I love Tampa because of that. So thank you, Tampa. Thank you for bringing that up. You didn't know it was coming that way, did you?
I didn't know it was coming. I like to think of myself as an ambassador because I work for the Bank of Tampa, but I represent Pinellas County, so I speak for all of Tampa Bay.
Okay, so what do you do as president for Pinellas County? First off, does everyone know what's in Pinellas County?
I would hope so.
Let's give it to the audience. I know St. Pete's in St. Petersburg.
St. Pete, Clearwater, the best beaches in the world.
I agree with that, by the way.
Thank you. No, it's Pinellas County is just it's a gem, and St. Pete's a gem. I think what gets lost sometime, and we have a little bit of regionalism here that dates back, centuries, but what makes Tampa Bay great is all of Tampa Bay. So it is Tampa and St. Pete and Clearwater and Sarasota, and it's the combination of all those
Polk
things.
and Pasco counties and
Hillsborough,
and really the 4 counties that make up this whole community.
Yeah, and I would say 5. But
what's the 5th one?
So if we had Polk County, Manatee.
Manatee County. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'll buy that.
Also, great beaches.
Well, what's beautiful about Tampa is Tampa as a city is a small city. It's a couple 100,000 people. But Tampa as a community is several million. And that makes it more of a metropolitan area like a small Houston as opposed to just a city with a few 100,000 people.
No, that's right. So it is the collective of the region that gets you to that 3-4 million people, depending on how far you draw your demographic circle.
And for people who don't know the region, if you look at a map of Florida, look on the west coast and halfway up, you'll see a little notch in there. That's Tampa Bay, and all the people that live within that community is what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay, so why don't we start? Tell me a little bit about what your job as president of Pinellas County for the Bank of Tampa means to the community and here, and who can benefit from giving you a call.
And maybe, James, if it's okay, I'll start with just like who the Bank of Tampa is.
Okay, well, hey, man, that was a loaded question. I'm trying to give too much up front. Go ahead.
No, I love it. And then we'll distill down to kind of what I do within the bank. But so Bank of Tampa, we are Tampa's oldest and largest community bank. Sadly, what's happened within the banking industry is there's been consolidation over the last several decades. And so there's only really 7 local banks that are left. And Bank of Tampa is the largest, both just from longevity and just from attrition from those other banks being consolidated and acquired by other banks. But so we
are. What would be a consideration of a local bank? What would classify a local bank versus like clearly I can say Wells Fargo, Citi, Bank of America, as they're not the local ones. But where does that? What's the classification? What makes the difference?
So the FDIC would classify any bank that's less than $10 billion in assets a community bank.
Okay.
So we're a little over $3 billion, but we're also headquartered in Tampa Bay. So, and I think that in itself is really unique because all the decision makers are here. All of our infrastructure is here. When you call somebody, we pick up at the 3rd ring. That's something that's very important to our CEO and our culture. And someone in Tampa answers the phone. We are invested in the community. We typically give somewhere between 5 to 10% of the bank's net income towards philanthropy, sponsorships, things that are truly local. Kind of just giving back to the community. We encourage our bankers to go out and volunteer in various things within the community, but it's a little bit more than encourage. There's an expectation that they do. And typically we support our bankers in whatever endeavor that they are passionate about and giving back in the community and just, being part of what makes Tampa Bay a great place to live.
The one thing I'd cue in on, this is a banker who answers their phone before the 3rd ring.
Yes. And it's kind of silly that's a novelty.
I'm just blown away by that. That's something I think everyone should strive for. In my business, we strive for that when we speak to our clients. We're human. We answer the phone. You can find us, and we can address an issue.
And I think you picked up on something. I think it's really easy for us to forget that we're dealing with people. When you're, at any larger institution, but, we're talking about banks right now, so banks specifically, we're a privately held company. So when you're a publicly held company and you're worried about quarterly revenue and what Wall Street expectations are, I think you have a tendency to dehumanize, and you're selling products and services. What we're really trying to do is create relationships with our clients, understand our clients. Not that we're not concerned about numbers, but we're more concerned about meeting their needs. And if we do our job, then the revenue numbers are going to take care of themselves.
So you're saying when the banks get bigger, the product becomes the more important component, and when the bank is smaller in a community essence, the human is more important, and the product is just a means to making the human better or having a better human experience.
I think you said it better than I did, but yes. And I think it's unfortunate. Big banks, they do a lot of things great. I don't know that customer service and treating...
Like boil your blood?
They could do that too. I've got some big bank stories, but we won't throw them under the
I'll give a little one I had with one of those big banks that has been named. I have a credit card with them, and I couldn't get information on the credit card. I couldn't log in. I couldn't do anything. And I went into it, and they had one digit of my phone number wrong, so they couldn't confirm my authentication. And there was no human being to talk to. There was no means to send a note, because without that confirmation, they wouldn't accept it as me being the real person. And when I realized the phone number was on there, I was 45 minutes on the phone to get someone who said, "Oh, we'll update that. Thank you." And it was really harsh. It wasn't easy. It took a good part of my day.
Right. Hopefully you're multitasking and doing other things in there like the rest of us do. But
theoretically.
Yeah. But no, we need to get you a Bank of Tampa credit card, and you call on the third ring and someone's going to pick up and talk to you.
I appreciate that. And your headquarters is in the building right around the corner from where we are right now.
We are not. We're actually, our headquarters is located in South Tampa. Obviously, we are here in downtown, but our actual headquarters is at Bayshore and Swan. So there's a 9-story office building there that is technically our headquarters. Our operations center is also...
There are better restaurants over there? Is that what you're suggesting?
Easier parking.
Oh, easier parking for sure. This is kind of somewhat different. Did you hear about the Tesla cab service they're looking to introduce in the downtown Tampa area to alleviate parking so that you can park your car 10 blocks away, and this will pick you up and bring you there for $2 wherever it might be? So
I think it's worth a shot. It's brilliant.
It's really good. The scooters are a little bit of a wreck, but if you're going out to dinner, it's not bad, because parking is a tough situation.
I will tell you, it's not uncommon for me to be seen in St. Petersburg on a scooter dressed like this.
I believe that. I was
convenient.
I get it totally. I was in Manhattan during COVID. My office was on 53rd Street and Madison Avenue. I literally bought a scooter and rode 2,000 miles during COVID in Manhattan with a camera on my head, documenting empty Times Square, doing circles in the middle of it.
That's wild.
Interviewing homeless, going through everything. I was going back and forth to work. It was the most incredible experience, and being a snowboarder, I'm a little animalistic when it comes down to it, and I ended up on the ground out cold, and that ended my scooting career.
I will so since we're exchanging scooter stories, I was actually in Washington, D.C. I don't know if they all do this, but I was coming on a group of people. So I went down into the street, and as I was getting ready to come back up into a little driveway, there was a lip, and I tried to jump the scooter. It automatically shut off.
Oh, because it was one of the rented one. It was one of the Uber scooters or whatever.
Mine. So
and then it stopped.
It stopped. So
because you were in the air.
Yes. So it hits wheel stop. It stops. Thankfully, I didn't.
You didn't stop.
No, I ran. It was I was pretty proud of myself.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
No, I had to go a little detail. I was 7:11 in the morning on June 12th, 2021.
Wow, very specific.
I was scooting up 6th Avenue at 46th Street, and the front tire locked up, hit a bolt or whatever, camera running. I flipped over, hit the ground.
Wow.
I was on the ground on 6th Avenue for 2.5 minutes, out cold, snoring. You can see the cars driving around me because the camera's all lined up. That's going on.
Nobody bothered to stop?
Well, one guy came and was helping. No car stopped. One guy was helping me. Another guy was concerned that his truck wasn't involved. And you can just see the whole situation. And it's quite literally, it's really unnerving to watch video of your life that you don't remember.
I can imagine.
Because the ambulance came and I'm talking to the medics and I've got it all on film. It's on tape. It's really like.
That's incredible. And being in New York, and I hate to give New York a bad rap, so I apologize to everybody, especially New Yorkers that are watching. I would imagine like someone would have grabbed your camera and like mugged you and then like took off. But
it's not far-fetched that couldn't happen. It was Sunday morning, 7 a.m. And during COVID, I was documenting what went on there. I've got literally hundreds of hours and interviewing people who were on the streets and going up into I crossed every Brooklyn Bridge, George Washington Bridge. I was up on 125th Street, going up Fifth Avenue the wrong way, through Central Park, through Times Square, going downtown, through, Ground Zero, all that stuff. I call it brokenhearted.nyc. And you can find documentary information at brokenhearted.nyc.
That was a good plug. Unfortunately, you couldn't have done the same thing. Well, maybe fortunately, unfortunately, could have done the same thing in Tampa because we did not participate in COVID. So
thank God to people. Here, I'm gonna say this out loud. One of my banker, who was the vice chairman of one of those banks I named earlier, he's no longer that. When during COVID and I was looking to move down here, he said to me, "You need two things to recognize what's going on right here." I was like, "What do you need?" He goes, "You need means and you need brains. And if you don't have the two of them, you ain't going anywhere. If you understand what's going on and don't have the means, you're stuck in New York. If you're in New York and you can't see what's going on, you're not going to make any difference that way."
That's great advice. Yeah.
And I just listened to it and I was like, that is so true. Mm-hmm. And then you look at the companies that picked up and left. Carl Icahn left New York with 200 people who make $5 million a year to West Palm Beach. This is a guy who put his name on stadiums and his whole life in New York and had means, had brains, and said, "We want to make a company. We have to get out of here." It's a really sad situation. Yep. And, it is what it is. I lived there 28 years, still have a home there. My family's still there. I still love New York.
Sure.
It's just sad to see how it became punitive to be a tax-paying, law-abiding citizen in that community.
Well, and it is unfortunate because New York is a great city. And anybody who's spent any time there, I mean, there's no place like it. So I used to hate. Before I spent any significant amount of time in New York City, because they think the world revolves around it. It really does. It's an incredible city. That being said, we have been an incredible beneficiary of those companies moving here. And since I do represent Pinellas and St. Pete in particular, where my primary office is, although we have 3 offices in Pinellas County, we've had some great businesses move here: Dynasty Financial, Ark Invest. So St. Pete in itself has become a tech hub. So it's exciting to see the momentum that's being built for entrepreneurship, tech in particular, marine science. So there's a lot happening in the region, and specifically there's a lot going on in Pinellas and St. Pete.
No, Pinellas is. People don't realize this, but that whole area is beautiful.
Yes,
it's artistic. It's got urban. It's got some of the most beautiful beaches out there, but most importantly, it's got the mindset that allows you to create and work and benefit from it.
Yes.
And not be charged with some sort of craziness. How about this? I'd like to say, when I was doing business in New York City, they put their hand out. When I came down to Tampa to do business, they put their arms out.
Yes. Yep.
One of them is welcoming. One of them's looking to get paid.
Yes.
Big difference between the two. Big difference between what you can collaborate and make the difference and make it all work out. So that's really important.
And I like to believe, you when you look at Florida and the nation for that matter, you've got the I-75 corridor and the 95 corridor. There is a distinction culturally in Florida that on the west coast of Florida, it gets a little bit more of that Midwest migration.
Yes.
And we're just open, welcoming people, and I'm from the Midwest.
Something I learned about Florida is, ironically, it is the most diverse state in the nation. Did you know that?
There's a lot of diversity, yes.
No, it is. Mathematically, when you start looking at whether you're down south and you're looking at the Hispanic population, the Cuban population, the European population, up in this area, you have a lot of people from the Midwest, coming in, you have people from South America, you have people from Canada coming down, you have people from all over the world. And the balance of the people is the most diversified people in this whole country. So when you see Florida in such a way, and actually that is also the case in politics, by the way, the people who've been elected at different levels, it's actually the most diverse. I know a lot of other states call for diversity. They're only calling for it because they know they aren't diverse. If you're already diverse and you already respect people for the contents of your character, you don't have to make a call for it.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying, James.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit, let's pull it back. Tell me a little bit what you, in your job and the Bank of Tampa, does for the businesses in Pinellas County in the area. Like what kind of components? Obviously, I'm a bank, I support projects, we want to build something, you come to me and get approval. But what types of things are special? Like if someone's listening to it and they have a mid-sized construction company looking to relocate or do something, what are the things that you do for your local community that way?
So I guess I'll start with myself. So I am the Pinellas County Market President. So I oversee all of our operations in Pinellas County. Commercial real estate and marketing also report up through me, and so both of those functions are bank-wide. But specifically in Pinellas, we've got 3 locations. Our bread and butter as the bank has always been local owner-managed business, privately held businesses that are here in the community. We have a niche in the professional executive space, so doctors, attorneys, CPAs, but really it's
which are all small businesses in a way.
Yes.
Generally, most of them are.
And really any owner-managed business in Pinellas County in particular, we've got a good little niche in manufacturing. That's where a lot of manufacturing is done.
I understand that.
Within Tampa Bay. So that's what we focus on. We're a full-service bank. We are primarily a commercial bank. So we lead with the commercial side, but we're full service. We have residential mortgage and credit cards and anything you can get at any other bank. But we really start with the commercial side. On the personal side, we kind of focus on the executives and the companies of those businesses. But, of course, we are willing to serve anybody. We're just not a general retail bank. So we've got 13 locations, and that's a little bit for a reason. We don't want to be on every corner. We want people who value service, value their relationship that I was talking about earlier, people who, they want to feel like they're meaningful, they're valued.
Well, it makes a big difference because when you need a banker, usually people are somewhat in the back of the mind going, oh my God, if this doesn't come through, I'm not getting the mortgage. I'm not getting that piece of machinery. I'm not going to deliver that product. And nerves go up, and sometimes not rightfully so, because things, if you've done your job right and everything, but it's a scary thing to look at across the table with someone who can be like, yes or no, and it changes everything, including where your kids go to school.
Yes, that's a great point. I do. At Jane's, and I'm unprepared. I wish I would have. I used to have this presentation that I did, within the bank that was, the 10 things that are most valued to individuals. And as a banker, I think, we can touch on 7 of them.
Don't you wish you had that presentation with you?
I do.
See, that's something they call presentation management that's really important for banks. Have you ever heard of it?
The presentation hell?
Well, in a way, it's about managing a slide library for your institution so that anyone who's doing presentations can go and pick 8, 10, 15 slides from an approved, up-to-date, compliant presentation that has a safe harbor statement and pull them down and reorder them, and in 5 minutes look as good as the president of the bank pitching the bank. And it helps manage communications throughout your whole organization. And ironically, it creates culture.
Sure.
Because when people stand and talk about something, that's the way they talk about it when they're not doing that. You give them the words, the identity, the meaning, inclusive of the design, the look, the logos, the fonts, and people are wrapping themselves in that slide, and you don't realize that carries much further.
It does, and stories in particular, and those stories are told within those slides. And so all those things you were talking about, just the anxiety of applying for a loan, I think part of what we do a little different, and part of it, honestly, we've got a couple of things that are secret sauce. One, we're privately owned, like I mentioned earlier. The second, we have an incredibly attractive and generous ESOP plan. So most of us are owners. And so I really, truly feel...
That's always important.
Yeah, because we feel we own the bank. So
that trickles down to all the messages I just said a little while ago. The people on the ground have a feeling of of ownership, of equity in their project, in their company. Their kids are going to go to school because Bank of Tampa goes well, because I did my job right and you're doing your job right, and we're all working towards the same thing. There's more value, and after 15 years, I don't have to worry about, going to the University of Tampa and paying the bill.
Yeah, and we're in the community. So my kids are going to school with your kids, and so I'm going to see you, and I want to make sure that you're successful, and the goals and dreams and aspirations that you have that I can impact through our banking services and providing you with loan and working capital and just general guidance, just from the experience of dealing with multiple other banks and seeing people's journeys. I mean, that's the fun part about the job, is I get to sit down with you, James, and just say, like, what are you trying to accomplish? And try to remove some of that anxiety and look at your financials and look at your business plan and say, okay, how can we collaboratively work towards your goal? And then I'll see you at the weekend at the ballpark.
Any similarities to that famous movie, It's a Wonderful Life?
Oh, we tell that story all the time.
Because what you just described is the opposite of what Pottersville was.
Yes.
What you just described is the opposite of what's happening in the big banks right now. Ironically, the theme of that movie does play out in today's America.
And I think that's that movie is obviously on a very superficial level, but it's understanding of the fractional banking system, which this year has been a crazy year in banking. I mean, if we go back to March, really what we had an old-fashioned run on the banks. Without a question. It's by design to eliminate the smaller ones and get more control into the bigger ones, and the fact that the government stepped in to basically bail out the tech companies who quashed the communications before the election to make sure they didn't lose their money was just kind of ironic, that the richest people in the world get bailed out when the rest of us would have lost our money up to $250,000. And I think I won't disagree with that, but part of that is all those tech companies are the employees that also work for them too, that wouldn't have gotten paychecks, and so.
Well, it's systemic at that point. They're all very big, but in the last one in 2008, they let a lot of people lose their tushies. In this one, these were select people who, quite frankly, hold the means to communication in our country right now.
They do, and what was interesting about that one, I do want to bring it back to just the beautiful life, because there was a run on the banks. It was done electronically this time, and just billions of dollars moved out the door virtually overnight. But that is the function of my money's in your home and your money's in my home, and there's only so much to go around, and so. But the approach to just being in the community and being part of the fabric in the community that George Bailey was. That really is kind of our underlying mantra. Do
you guys keep the debt that you issue, or do you resell it on the market like most banks do?
Everything is portfolio. So.
Everything's portfolio. So you're moving. Okay.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference.
Yes, it does.
This episode of Presentation Hell is brought to you by Shuffler. Shuffler is presentation management, and if you want the academic view of what presentation management do, you can find it at Amazon. Presentation management book. And if you want to know how it actually works in real life, Presentation Hell will describe all the things that people get scared of when doing a presentation. Welcome back to the second half of the podcast, Presentation Hell, coming to you from Embark Studios in Tampa, Florida. So you're president of Bank of Tampa's Pinellas Market.
Yes.
So what's the trajectory that gets you there? Where did you grow up? What were you interested in? Where was the moment that you recognized, holy crap, I'm a banker?
So it's tying back into the beautiful life or wonderful life. Most community bankers are very much like George Bailey. They have no intention of ever being in banking. We just find ourselves here, and then we're here for so long, and then we become.
It's like you got the job, and after 4 or 5 years, suddenly realized, hey, I'm not only am I getting paid, I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah, and shit, I guess I'm a banker.
Yeah.
I grew up in Wisconsin, moved away when I was 12, moved to a suburb of D.C. for 2 years, moved down here for high school, and just decided, not that I moved a lot, but I moved at those critical junctures, and I came from a smallish city in Wisconsin. Wasn't super small, but multi-generational. Everybody knew everybody's history and garbage.
Parents and grandparents.
Oh man,
and,
I was excited.
Uncle Edward who lost his finger while cutting the yard type of thing.
Absolutely.
We all know the stories.
Everybody knows everybody's story, and so I was excited to get away. And then once I got away, I missed it. In Tampa's a little different in the sense that 50% of the people are from here, but 50% are transplants, like I ended up being. But just wanted a place to call home and wanted to plant the flag and wanted to stay in this area. So went to University of South Florida here in Tampa, graduated. So go Bulls. Actually had a job lined up at Morgan Stanley as a broker in
Up
sales.
in New York?
Training would have been in New York.
Okay.
So this is 2001. They called me up before 9/11, and I probably would have been in New York for training at the time, but they called me back up and said, hey, we've got hiring freezes. Don't call us. We'll call you. So here I found myself with...
Very traditional.
with a finance degree, not really knowing what to do, and found my way into banking and started in credit because I quickly realized that I didn't want to be in the branches and just do general retail at the time.
When you say you found your way in banking, did you just answer an ad for a job because you were looking to work and they saw you with the credentials and said warm body, good mind, get his ass in here?
Someone suggested banking. And so then I kind of went down that path. And what I found was interesting was we used to train bankers. We don't really train bankers anymore, which is really unfortunate from an industry perspective. So there's a big gap in age. I'm kind of at the cusp of, the younger generation.
You're a
kid. Yeah, kind of am in banking and then there's a good gap, and all the other bankers are like 60 and 70, and they're all starting to retire. So in terms of leadership, and I know that's not uncommon just because of the demographics in the country, but no, everybody used to have management training programs. At the time when I graduated, Bank of America and SunTrust Bank, which is now part of Truist, they both had programs. I got a little bit of traction at Bank of America. Their deal was 18 months, they send you to Charlotte, you train, then they send you wherever else they need you. So you don't get to decide what you're going to do or where you're going to be.
It's like the military.
Very much so. So
you give yourself in, and you could wind up on in Denver.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I went to school at USF, wanted to be a Tampa person. So I told them I want to work in Tampa and I don't want to be in retail. And they're like, well, you can put that as your preferences, no guarantees. And I'm like, this is not for me. So took a job with the community bank, did a couple of years in credit underwriting, got moved into lending. And I guess that's kind of the rest of the story. I initially had worked at a bank that was small enough that they call ourselves generalists, so we weren't specialists. So any type of business, any type of real estate transaction I could do. Which is a little unusual unless you truly work at a small community bank nowadays. Everyone has gone to specialization. Ended up having a real estate specialty. So a lot of my career I was in real estate banking. During the Great Recession, I ended up being in what they call special assets or workout, dealing with distressed loans.
I was going to say workout. That means people have problems.
Yeah, no, and went from an environment at the bank at the time that we were starved for capital. We didn't fail, but we were just making deals with everybody. We were selling off notes. It was really a weird time. I remember being at a closing table and the bank lost $3 million, I think, in the loan, and the people that bought the loan are like high-fiving at the table, and I'm like, I don't like, should I cheer with you? But I feel terrible because the bank just lost $3 million. Very odd. Working on arrangements, a lot of commercial loans have personal guarantees. So if the company can't pay back, I go to James and say, I need you to pay James. So
yeah, I get that. I have a line of credit.
Okay. So, and if it's, in this instance, if it's real estate secured, so I can take it back, and I'm only going to get 50% of what I originally lent to you, but you're a guarantor, and so I can come after you individually.
You keep going.
So, but in that period of time, I could say, if you give me 10% more, let's just call it a day.
Yeah, you can cut the deal and quit fighting.
Yes. So we were trying to get capital in and just keep the lights on. Then a larger bank ended up buying the bank I was at. An international bank, and then it shifted from, if you can't pay, we're just going to sue you. So most of the time I spent in the courtroom and really understood.
And then you end up paying lawyers for the money that you probably could have just licked your wounds, cut bait, and went.
Yeah, and then I love to tell this story because this I think in my mind showcases the specialness of Bank of Tampa. So when I was at this other bank that I won't name, we were suing a client, and was not going well. It was really unfortunate, and I ended up leaving that bank, came over to the Bank of Tampa, and back in those days we still had paper files. It was about 10 years ago, and we were just like weeding those out.
10 years ago, paper files. You see how fast things have changed, kids?
Yes. pulled open the paper file, and I had to call that particular client because he had a relationship at Bank of Tampa too. Very different approach. The bank decided, hey, I mean, we're in the community. Let's work with them. You know, pay a little down. We'll let you work your way through it over a period of time. And
as long as they're answering the phone, you can work with them. The
Yes.
moment you, here's advice for anyone taking a loan or owing money. The moment you don't answer the phone is the moment it cascades into chaos.
thank you for that. That's really important. Basic advice, communication, just like
That's right.
any relationship.
That's right. Oh, go on. Go
Yeah,
on. Sorry to put that down there. It makes a big difference on anything.
I love it. It's great advice. So I called him and said, hey, I'm your old new banker again. I'm at Bank of Tampa. And he's like, what does that mean for me? Are you going to sue me? And I'm like, no, man.
No, these guys have a different attitude.
Yeah, no, I'm here to work with you. And I'm like very proud to say that he was able to work through it and paid the bank off in full. And he's successful and doing great. But difference in the big bank and a community bank.
Well, the big bank is cold and clinical.
Yes, it's a numbers game.
Yeah, and a community bank actually drives up the street and sees the building that didn't get fixed.
Yes, and again, our kids are going to school together.
That's right, and they're going to start bullying each other if you give me some crap from the bank. I'll let them know. I'm just teasing on that. So, Wisconsin, you came in, you spent some time as a preteen in D.C., came down here, went to high school, traveled around, you went to USF, which is the University of South Florida, which
University of Sun and Fun.
Sun and Fun. Hey, University of Sun and Fun. I'd like to say something. I went to the University of Houston in a long time ago in the 1980s.
Okay.
At the time, it was very much the local Houston college. Everyone worked for a living. They paid for it. People went there because they didn't get to the privilege of going off to the University of Texas or A&M or Baylor or Tech or SMU or any of the other places. Those are the kids who stayed home, got a job, paid their bills, very blue, like grit type of thing. That was a few years ago, a couple decades ago. Since then, University of Houston has grown up incredibly.
Absolutely.
It's now on the trajectory to be one of the top institutions in the nation on a whole variety of different levels, let alone playing football and basketball and other types of things that make a difference. And this has grown over a period of time. And I see the parallels between USF, where Houston was 35 years ago when I was there, where USF is now, with a lot of space and building up, a lot of people with grit, people who are working, where if you lost your job, you can't stay in school because you have to have your job to pay your bill to go to school. So it creates a respect towards the work ethic that goes into it. And I'd also like to say that the University of Houston has a president, Renu Khator, who has been incredible for the past decade and brought it into a new place. You know where she came from?
No.
USF.
Is that right?
That's right.
I love that.
That's right. There is a good root and foundation for what's going on, and I would say that over the next 10 or 20 years, this is a university of this century that's going to grow very well. And I have no stake in it, but I'm just giving you my God's honest thoughts.
I love it. No, thank you for doing the commercial for me. So I'm proud of my university, and it's a great researcher university, and hard to get into now. I mean, it was, I won't say it was necessarily easy when I got there, but it was a lot easier. So I don't know if I get in today.
Well, yeah, that's the same thing there. It was the local school who people worked and had a job and went through it. And these are the people, that's why you're president of your division of the bank. You've got the grit. You work. You get up in the morning. You do what you're supposed to do. And if you didn't do that, you wouldn't have the luxury to go to school.
And I tell you, something, James, it's not that hard. And it's
that's because you did it. The people who have the luxury to go to school who never work, they're you said him, not her. I mean, they're freaking breaking themselves on the street. It's like crazy.
And I think so. To that point, I guess I'm very grateful because I had great parents and a great mother, especially that just drove me. And at the time, as a kid, it frustrated me because I'm like, she would always put this pressure on me, like, you're going to do great things in the world. She was right. But that pressure to, I need to go out and like prove myself and do something and work hard and just grind every day. And it's just consistency. It's consistency. And I love when, I get the opportunity to mentor people. And
mentoring is huge. I'll tell you right now, for me, that's what I do here, Kate. I mentor you and Sumir and everyone else who comes through it, and I freaking love it. And thank God for Embark Collective. Go ahead.
Well said. But just work hard, show up.
That's right.
Be consistent.
That's a Mel Brooks line. He said 90% of success is showing up on time.
It is. And amazing today. I mean, I hate to say, I sound like the old man here, but like, the kids today, and not all kids. I mean, some.
Well,
some
things
kids,
are frankly, things are too easy, to put it plainly.
Yes.
If I can sit here and turn around and swipe right, and I have sushi delivered, I didn't eat sushi till I was 30 years old.
Yeah.
If I turn around and swipe left, suddenly I'm Casanova here, and I have dates coming in, and I don't have to go and meet someone and be nice. Like, things are served up so easily that the act of actually putting it together is disrespected.
You know, there's something to be said maybe just for the whole dating process. Because I think about all the rejection that you and I had to experience growing up. Kids don't have to do that anymore. They swipe, right? Or they're
Well,
they're
I think it
messaging
might
each other.
sound easier for the top tier of the people in the component. I think a lot of people are left behind in that, but you're right. You have to, like, they don't have to go, hey, Owen, let me tell a joke that you're going to laugh at. Maybe I'm going to get closer. Maybe you're going to be receptive to my personality and not feel threatened. Maybe, you know what I mean? All those things that used to go into normal courtship and dating is just, man, I saw you twerking on Insta, and get your ass over here. You should be gone by 11 because I have another date at midnight. What the hell is this life about? Maybe that's what it is, you know? Maybe I missed something when I was a kid.
Well, it would have been a hell of a lot easier. I mean, I also
You
understand.
think it is, or you think it's hollow? I think it's hollow.
I think it's hollow. And I think the unfortunate thing is you're not building that resiliency.
That's right.
Oftentimes it's very superficial, so you don't have the opportunity to develop those deep, meaningful relationships. Which that's kind of the secret sauce of life.
Well, that is
right?
the whole thing, because
Yes.
Family and stuff like that. People don't realize that. Quite frankly, if I get in trouble, my family is going to come and kick ass on my side.
Yes.
And then when it's all done, they'll turn around and pin me against the wall and say, "What the hell did you do?"
Right.
Where in today's day and age, you get into trouble, there's no one there that'll stand up for you because of you and who you are.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And
I think
this is by design. I think it is. It's really by design. It's designed to not have that strong family unit. Like, if you look at Western culture, where we are right now, the families are breaking apart.
Yeah.
And that breaking apart, the 5-year-old isn't living in the same house with grandma.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying grandma has to take care of them, but there's a certain amount of empathy and understanding that human beings learn in a generational sense.
Yes.
And it teaches them to be better to each other, themselves, and everyone involved in that relationship. And they learn that type of thing. And if I don't want to be with you because you didn't give me a like on my post of me jumping off a rock, the shallowness and hollowness, and this is me projecting, that I believe a lot of people who've been through all of this social media world, they're going to hit at some point after a decade and realize, I don't have any close relationships, or they're fewer and far between. I don't like.
And I think I love to believe we're starting to figure some of that out, because I
think we will.
My kids, and especially I give a lot of credit to my oldest son.
How old's your oldest?
Actually, my oldest stepdaughter too, for that matter. Or I should say bonus daughter. I guess that's
how old are
I've been
they?
coached
How
to
old are
say.
they?
So
Coach to say.
So I have two boys, 15 and 17,
Okay.
and my wife came to the relationship with two girls that are also 15 and 17. So we're the Brady Bunch.
I was about to say you're too shy of the Brady Bunch.
Oh yeah, yes. But it's great. But so I think they've recognized that. I mean, there's a lot of power in social media, and when you think about it, it's new. We're trying to figure it out, navigate our way through it, but they also recognize that they need to take a pause and pull back and have a healthy balance and have real meaningful relationships. And maybe some of that has to do with our parenting, but I mean, I feel like their friends kind of feel the same way too. So maybe things are starting to shift.
Well, I hope so. I mean,
Humanity's not lost.
I think on the social media front, I think it forces each young human being to make their own person as their own brand, and they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
If some 12-year-old catches a football and runs over everybody and gets a touchdown, that person's going to get all sorts of adulation for that video.
Yeah.
They're going to seek to recreate it, and it may very well be their brand going forward and who they are forever and ever, because it hooked in that way.
Yeah.
Just because of one time and place that made it special. Or you did something stupid and
That's
became
what I
a
was gonna say,
meme,
yes.
and suddenly you can never shake it. You're always the girl who slipped on the banana peel or whatever it is, and you'll never get out of it. and that brand that is you end up being a problem.
So,
Go ahead.
and you're right. And what I'm hoping is, I mean, we were kind of talking about just, it's sticking forever, is that we get to a point in our society where there's just a little bit of grace.
We have no grace,
have
no
no grace.
forgiveness in this
None.
society. You
But-
need to be eliminated. You need to
That's exactly
lose
right.
your ability to earn a living, and I want your kids to starve.
Everybody.
Nothing
But
makes me happier than that.
We have to be able to make mistakes. We have to be able to learn from those mistakes and move on. But I tell my kids, like, you do that stupid thing. I mean, that's out there forever. That's your brand.
It's much harder now. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how do you recover from that? So just don't put yourself in that situation.
That's right. The knowledge and I guess it's wisdom of being old is lost on the youth,
Yeah.
ironically.
Yeah, got some gray hair in here.
Yeah, hey, I'm there with you. My son's 21 and 17, and they're very much involved in all sorts of wacky stuff, which is, thank God they're great boys. I love them very much. Thank God they're smarter than me. That's by action, not by thought, but that's all good. So why don't we just take a minute and wrap up here?
Okay.
Take a minute, look at the camera, tell the people of the community who are listening how to reach you, what you can do for them, what's special about you being a president of Bank of Tampa, and what Bank of Tampa can do for them.
Appreciate that, James. So, I mean, we are a community bank. We're heavily invested in the community. So chances are, if you're just out and about, you're going to run into someone from the Bank of Tampa if you're in the general business community, or you're involved in anything that's philanthropic or civic in our community. And from the business side, I mean, if you are tired of just being a number and dealing with a larger bank and them not knowing who you are, and that's not everybody. I mean, some people are fine with just having a checking account, a car loan, and they don't want to deal with their banker. They can do everything by their phone. Candidly, we're not the bank for you, but if you want someone who knows you, who wants to get to know your business, who wants to help your business grow, give you thoughtful advice, and be a trusted advisor and be a friend, Bank of Tampa is the bank for you.
Excellent. You heard it here. I couldn't agree with that more. And thank you, Owen, for coming in today.
Thank you, James. Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Presentation Help podcast from Embark Studios here in Tampa, Florida.